A year and a half ago, I did a 30,000 mile reliability review and discussed the minor issues I had with my 4th gen Mazda 3. Today I'm doing a 5-year, 50,000 mile reliability review. Have things gotten better, or have they gotten worse? Keep watching. This is a 2021 Mazda 3 front-wheel drive with a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine. Okay, so in the last reliability review video, I talked about this bucking and hesitation that happened when accelerating from a dead stop. So that mainly happens when I move my foot from the brake to the accelerator pedal fairly quickly. And it does this thing where there's like a very brief moment of hesitation where at times, kind of on rare occasion, it feels like maybe it wants to stall out. And actually one time it did stall out, as I mentioned in the last video. But it only did it once. It only stalled out one time, and it's never done it since. The bucking hesitation issue has not gotten any worse since the last video, but I've also altered the way I drive a little bit. When I move my foot from the brake to the accelerator, I just give it an extra half second or so, half second to a second, whatever. I don't rush it, and it takes off just fine. It doesn't do it when you sort of take your time doing it. I brought this up with at the dealership the last time I was in there for service. Had him test drive it. Actually, I went on a test drive with the tech, and I was able to reproduce it pretty easily. And he says, yeah, I noticed that. So he actually tested some other Mazdas on the lot, some other brand new Mazdas. This is a 2021. He tested some 2025s, and he noted that those did it too. So I've now come to the conclusion that this, I'm going to call it a quirk, is just inherent to the drivetrain of this car. It doesn't actually appear to be anything wrong with the car. It's just the behavior of it. My understanding is that this doesn't have quite a conventional torque converter, so that might explain why you just don't want to rush things between the brake and the accelerator pedal when you're moving from a dead stop. And lots of other people mention the same thing. So it doesn't appear to be anything wrong with the car. And now that I've altered my driving habits a bit, it's really not an issue anymore. In fact, for the stalling issue, there have been a few people who have had the same stalling issue, and there was a TSB out to address that issue. So did the TSB, no stalling, never happened again. All it required was a little software update, and that was it. Okay, the other thing that's kind of related, I mean, it's related to the transmission, is very rarely, it has happened a handful of times in the 5 years that I've owned this car, is a little bit of a lurch after having reversed, like say out of a driveway, and then putting the car in drive, and then taken off. Occasionally there will be a slightly different kind of behavior where the car just kind of lurches forward, like the transmission just suddenly engaged in first gear, kind of abruptly, and then, you know, move forward a little harshly. It doesn't happen every time, so I can't reproduce it anytime I want to, but every so often it will. And again, that does seem to be if I rush the process. So when you reverse and you go to then put it in drive, just give it a second. And then, you know, move your foot from the brake to the accelerator pedal, but again, don't rush the process. And that does seem to be the circumstances in that scenario that leads to that harsh lurch forward when I get going after shifting from reverse to drive. So again, I don't think there's anything wrong with the transmission. I think it's just the inherent behavior of the car. It just, the processes don't like to be rushed. So this next one is really not a big deal to me. You got to put your hand on the door handle, and it's supposed to sense that your hand is there, and it will unlock the car if you have the key fob in your pocket. And every so often it won't sense my hand. Really not a big deal. I just take out the key fob and unlock the door that way. And it does the same thing on our other 2022. And so that quirk has not gotten any worse with time. So that's fine. And in the last video, I complained about the center console lid not opening very gracefully. You'd start to open it and it would get hung up. And it was hard to continue opening. It would just sort of like get stuck partway open. And you had to sort of, kind of force it a little bit to open it and flip it up. Since the posting of my last reliability review video, the center console lid now doesn't get hung up anymore. It opens perfectly. It's a smooth, fluid process. Slides back, flips open, no problem. So I don't have that problem anymore on this car. It just completely went away. All right, let's talk about rattles and creaks. I see this mentioned quite a lot in Mazda forums and in the Mazda subreddits, but it still seems to be hit or miss for a lot of people. There are still plenty of people who never have issues with rattles and creaks. Now, as I mentioned in the last video, prior to posting my last reliability review video, I talked about how this car would occasionally present a random rattle or creak that would come and it would last for maybe one drive, then it would go away on the next drive. And then maybe a couple drives later, a few drives later, another creak or rattle would show up and it would only last for one drive or so, and then it would go away again. And so these rattles and creaks would kind of come and go sporadically every so often. And that was in the first 2.5 years of ownership. It did that, but I have to say, it has not done that in the last 2 years. I've not had a single creak or rattle in this car in the last 2 years, but it went away, completely went away. Not had a single one since. In the last video, I mentioned a door leak. So one of the doors had a leaky seal, so water would get in if it rained really hard or, I washed the car. And there was a TSB to repair that, and got the TSB done, and nothing has leaked since then. So this has been a completely leak-free car, except for 4 years ago, one of the door seals leaked. It was fixed under warranty. Not a problem since. All right, this other one is a little bit more annoying, but still really not a big deal because I've got a workaround to it, a very easy workaround. So in the last video, I mentioned this too. This has pretty much always been a thing, is sometimes when you go to close the fuel door hatch after fueling up, it doesn't latch shut. So the door keeps wanting to just remain popped out. And you try pushing it in to lock it in place, and it does not lock into place. I would say it does this about half the time. But the workaround is super simple. There's a black latching mechanism, a black plastic latching mechanism. You just push it in, push it again to release it, then push the fuel door in, and it latches shut at that point. All right, let's talk about the forward collision alert system in this car. And it's a very rare quirk with the system, and I don't think that this is specific to Mazda. I think any modern car probably does this. It's just the technology isn't 100% perfect. 99.999% of the time it is. It's only done this like maybe 2 or 3 times since I've owned the car, where it'll give a false alarm. It'll alert, thinking that you're about to collide into something, and there's nothing to collide into. It's just a false positive. So it did that about 2 or 3 times prior to the last video. It has not done that since. Hasn't done it in 2 years. The thin paint on modern cars, and again, I don't think this is just a Mazda thing. It seems to be all across the board with the new environmental regulations. The materials that go into the paint are now environmentally friendly, they're water-based, and the paint's more fragile on modern cars. Let's just put it that way. And everybody talks about the rock chips that collect on the hood of their cars. When I did my last review video, There were a few paint chips in the paint. Wasn't too bad. But this last year I did an awful lot of driving on the freeways in more congested conditions. And as a result, I now have quite a bit more paint chips on the hood that are, it's a bit more noticeable now. I mean, even when you stand back from the car a little bit, you see the little white dots. With all that said, you know, it's holding up not too bad for what it is. You can expect with thinner, more fragile paint that you're gonna have rock chips. All right, the safety systems in this car. There will be the extremely rare occasion where you'll get an alert that says that the safety systems are disabled. We're not talking about the very critical safety systems. We're talking about some of the less important safety systems, and that usually happens, I did a little research on this, usually happens if you're driving, so like the sun is low in the sky, and you're driving right into the sun. So you got the bright light hitting the radar on the front here. Or very heavy rain or snow. It interferes with the functioning of the radar in those conditions, so that can happen. Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with the system and just inherent to radar technology. And I mentioned in the last video that once in a great while, it's not that often, even when the batteries are fresh in the key fob, you will very occasionally get, or I anyway, I don't know about you, but I will get an alert on the instrument cluster that says key fob or key not detected. There seems to be no rhyme or reason to it, just seems to randomly happen, but I find if I wait another minute, it'll then detect it. That's when I first arrive at the car. That problem has not gotten any worse since my last video. Maybe even has gotten a little bit better. It doesn't seem to have done it as often in this last year and a half as it did in the first three and a half years of ownership. Right before I posted my 30,000 mile review video a year and a half ago, the exterior trunk release stopped working for a few days. The problem went away on its own and it never malfunctioned again. So that's it. I've had no new issues with this car since my last review, and even a few of the issues have either gone away or gotten better. Overall, this is just a collection of minor issues that really only amount to mild annoyances. I'd say the positives of this car greatly outweigh the collection of very small issues. I'm extremely satisfied with this car. I love driving it, I love owning it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I've had absolutely no major issues with this car. And in the most important reliability categories, this is an extremely reliable car. At least it's been for me. All right, well, I hope that answers some of your questions, and I'll do another review probably around maybe 75,000 miles and let you guys know how it's going. And then eventually, when I rack up enough miles on our 2022 Turbo, I'll do a reliability review of that also. So, all right, thanks for watching. Take care, guys.